we talked about him producing films with his producing partner, Marvin Minoff. And Marvin Minoff was Bonnie Franklin's husband. And so he said, we did two together that I'm really proud of. One of them was Patch Adams, and one of them is Dominick and Eugene. So I had Mike pick the one he wanted to share with you all since he was coming to Sedona anyway, and he picked this incredible film. You all know him and love him from MASH and many, many other things and the good things he's doing on this planet. Please help me welcome to introduce the film, Mr. Mike Farrell.
As Dustin Hoffman said, you kept the clapping going until I got here.
They're good people.
Yes, it's awful to walk up in dead silence. Thank you very much for being here. This film is very close to my heart, and so I want you to vote for it. I don't care what category you put it in.
We'll just put it back in competition. We'll put it back in.
There's always a history that goes with making a film, and I just wanted to share a little of it with you. When I was doing MASH many years ago, a young man wrote me a letter, and he said he was an ex-Marine, and he said, because you're an ex-Marine, you might be willing to help me. I want to be a writer, and nobody will read what I've written. Would you be willing to read it? So I said, I can't promise you I'll do it in a hurry, but if you send whatever it is you've written, I'll try to read it. And shortly thereafter, I got this huge box, a tome. It was a giant piece of writing, and I made my way through it. And it was a story of this young man's experience in the Marine Corps, and it was interesting. But I wrote him back and I said, "Look, you're a good writer. You have a talent. I want to encourage you to write, but this is not a movie. This is maybe a book. You ought to be talking to publishers about it." And he thanked me voluminously and said, "Oh, you took the time, and thank you very much, and blah, 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 blah." And I said, "Well, just if you ever have something else that you want me to take a look at, send it on." And a couple months later, I received what are the bones of the movie you're about to see. Just his sketch out of this story about these two brothers. And I fell in love with it. Made a deal with him to try and put it together. Now this was in the 70s. And 8 years later, after MASH was over, I formed a partnership with Marvin Minoff, who was, as has been suggested, Bonnie Franklin's husband. Shelley, my wife, was working with Bonnie in One Day at a Time. And we got together. There are stories about all of that, but I won't bore you with those. And Marvin and I decided he was a producer of motion pictures and television, and I was had produced one picture and wanted to be involved more in that. So we set up a company, Farrell Productions, and he said, why don't we look back through our files and just sort of see if there's something you love that you've never been able to put together, because we had tried and had failed. I had tried and failed. And he said, "And I'll do the same." And we looked back, and I showed him Dominick and Eugene. And because I had gotten a script, or at least a rough script, and he said, "God, I love this." He said, "Why don't we see if we can figure out how to do it?" Well, at that time in Hollywood, brothers, the Keach brothers and the Carradine brothers, each had made films, and other brothers were talking about making films. And I had worked with Leo Penn, who was a director in Hollywood in an earlier series I had done. And Leo's son is named Sean Penn. And his brother, Chris Penn. And I thought, I wonder if Sean, I had met Sean, and I thought, well, Sean's career is just starting to take off. Maybe he'd be interested in doing this film with his brother. And I called him and asked him if he'd read it, and he said, "Sure, I will." And I sent it over, and he called me back, and he said, "I love this. I really want to do it, but not with my brother." He said, "Fine, we'll find somebody else to play your brother." And Sean was at that time hooked to a motion picture studio called Orion Pictures. And we took it to Orion. They loved the idea. We hired a writer. He wrote a draft. Sean wasn't happy with the draft. And he said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll rewrite it. and he was married to Madonna at the time. He was going to go off and he was going to be with her and he was going to write this script. And when he said, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You can either like it or not. But of course, the or not meant if we don't like it, we lose Sean. So we said, what could we say? I said, sure, Sean, sure, it's great if you want to write a version of this script. And he went off and he did, and he wrote it, and he brought it back. And you know, Sean, very talented. I mean, really an immensely talented young man, but he tends to look at things a little darkly. And it's a little less than we wanted it to be. So we said, gee, Sean, it's really not. We want to move forward with the draft we have and get the writer to do it again. He said, I understand. Goodbye. So we thought the story's over. We're not going to be at Orion anymore. How do we get this picture made? And when I called the Orion executives, they said, oh, we love this script. So Sean, doesn't matter. If Sean wants to go away, well, let's just move forward. And we said, terrific. We then got a second draft of the film script, and we took it in there and got a call from one of the executives who said, I want you to come in and meet the boys. And Marvin and I looked at each other and what does that mean? So we came in, and he ushered us into this room, and he said, I want you to meet Eric Pleskow, Bill Greenblatt, Eric, anyway, all four of the heads of Orion Pictures. They started to tell us how much they loved this movie. And we had said between ourselves, Marvin and I said, this needs more depth, it needs more guts, it needs more street. We love this movie. It's going to be the next Marty. We love it, absolutely, as it is. We want to make it, and we thought, well, this is fabulous. But look, there are some things that we need to do. And I kept saying, and they said, no, don't worry about it. We love it. And I said, the script needs something that we don't have yet, but we'll get it. No, you guys, we're ready to make this picture. So we left just walking on air and got out of the office and standing there waiting for the elevator to come, and I'm sort of floating, and Marvin, who had been in the business longer than I had, said, you know how many times the heads of the studio tell you how much they love your script and are ready to make a picture? And I said, no, how many times? And he said, never happens. Don't argue. So we went off and we actually got Alvin Sargent, a screenwriter that some of you may know, Academy Award winner for many motion pictures, to write a new draft of the script. We hired Bob Young to direct it. We cast Tom Hulse, who had played Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and Ray Liotta, an actor who had only done one small film before that, and a woman by the name of Jamie Lee Curtis, and a man you'll recognize who plays a smaller role by the name of David Strathairn. I saw David at the awards a couple of years ago at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. I went up to him and I said, I take credit for having started your career. He said, a lot of people make that claim, but you can do that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed Dominick and Eugene.